Howdy everyone, Kylie here, host of Fishing After 5, the channel that you're currently on. And today we are going to continue our series for tips for the bank angler, part 2. And this one is about rods and reels. Strap in, everybody is about to get real general up in here. So I said in the last video that when you walk up to the bank with 6, 7, 8 rods, yeah, you look professional. I'm gonna give you that. But that's not really practical when you're out there fishing for 6, 7 hours. I know, it's tempting. It's tempting to do it. I did it. I did it all the time. In fact, I still fight that urge now. But I've come up with 2 generalized setups that would help me every single time I'm out fishing. Yes, 2 setups gets me through the gamut of all the things I like to fish. Top water, deep down, bottom fishing, middle of the column, just swimming along. I've got 2 setups that'll work for all of that. And hopefully, after the end of this video, you'll be able to cut down on the amount of rods that you bring to the bank, simplify your bank angling, and perhaps catch more fish. But obviously a YouTube video ain't gonna help you catch fish, so you know, only so much I can do there. And if you learned something from this series, be sure to leave a like and subscribe because I'm gonna be doing this from here on out. Hopefully you guys can learn from my millions of mess ups in the bank angling world. So this episode is about rods and reels, and I want to split this up into 2. That's where I'm going to talk to the beginning angler and the intermediate angler. Hello, beginning angler. Are you just now getting out there, getting your feet real wet in the waters infested with bass and bluegill? Well, I've got something for you. One of the things I did as a complete beginner was I fished for bluegill. Yeah, not even glamorous. Bluegill only. I wanted to become a bass fisherman, but I really wanted to learn the basics. How to set a hook, how to cast in, how to work a lure. Bluegill are dumb. I don't know how else to say it. And they'll bite mostly anything. And a good way to actually get your feet wet into the world of fishing is to start out with a medium power fishing rod, fast action of course. And I would actually stick to something shorter, around 6'6", maybe even shorter than that. Of course, this is all on spinning gear. A little spinning reel will do you fine. One of these diddle dangs. This is actually a Daiwa Crossfire. One of my favorite little reels is a 2500 size. As you can tell, not as big as a 3000. A 3000 is like my Daiwa RG here. Not the biggest difference in size, but there's a difference in weight. When you have a lighter rod, a lighter reel does well for you. And I believe you can get one of these Crossfires for like $19 on clearance right now. Not a bad reel to start out with. So going against the grain of most, I'm actually recommending getting about a 2500 size reel. 3000 is okay too, or lower if you want to go that way. And equipping yourself with 6 to 8 pound test line. Now here's the part where we're gonna get a little weird. So you've got 3 kinds of lines out there: braid, fluorocarbon, and monofilament. Now, monofilament is going to get you most places. Monofilament has a lot of stretch. It's the base of all fishing line. People have been using monofilament for, I don't know, over 50 years and have never had a complaint. Only recently did these newer lines come out. People have started changing to them because, well, they do work better. You're not wrong fishing monofilament though. But then there's also fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon is near invisible in the water, has very little stretch, and has a lower line size, so it's less thick than monofilament is. So you can actually put more of it on your spool. Braid, of course, is even smaller than that, has an amazing strength, although it can tend to snap with a sharp pull. It's super strong, super sensitive, and you can't really go wrong with braid either, except braid is very visible in the water, which is why most turn to leaders. But what I'm gonna recommend is actually none of those 3. I wanna recommend to you beginner angler, 6 to 8 pound copolymer. Yeah, heard me right, copolymer. So what a copolymer is like a monofilament that's fluorocarbon coated. So you get some of the best of both worlds with very little downsides. You're gonna get a little bit of that stretch with the monofilament, tempered by the no stretch of the fluorocarbon. So it's gonna be kind of in the middle for you. It'll also be less visible in the water. And one thing I forgot to mention is that fluorocarbon sinks, monofilament stays on top of the water. Guess what happens with the copolymer? Kind of in the middle too. But that doesn't mean it's not gonna work. Doing a topwater with pure fluorocarbon is not the best. Using a copolymer is going to allow you to do your topwaters, your crankbaits, stuff that goes through the middle of the water column, and also for your bottom fishing. It'll do all of that. It's a very generalized thing that allows you to run a wide range of lures. So beginner angler, I recommend that you try out copolymer, 6 to 8 pound test. As far as brands of copolymer, I'm gonna leave that one up to you. But I do know that Grand Slam, which is something you can get from Walmart, has been one of my favorites as well. I'm also a big fan of Vicious Fishing Ultimate. All right, intermediates, back to you. And well, this also applies to the beginners too, so I guess I'm just talking to everybody. In cutting down the amount of stuff that you bring with you to the bank, the most important part is gonna be the rod and the reel setup. And as a maximum, I actually recommend that you bring 2 combos with you. One, a bait casting combo, although it doesn't have to be if you don't want to use bait casting, and a spinning combo that goes a little bit on the lighter side. For the bait casting combo, I recommend a 7-foot, medium, heavy, and around 14-pound fluorocarbon. This one's going to be your general workhorse. No, it won't be topwater. However, you can fish jigs, Texas rigs, crankbaits if you're feeling daring of doing that from the bank, vibrating jigs, you name it. This is probably going to fish it and fish it well. 14-pound test is a nice general pound to go with. For me, I typically like to go with swim jigs, little guys like this. 14-pound test is enough to get this in cover and pull it out, as long as you're quick and not me. And for that generalized setup, we're not going too heavy and we're also not going too light. We want to cover a wide range of things. This is how you cut down on the amount of tackle you bring to the bank. And for that spinning combo, I recommend another 7-foot rod, medium, with a range of 6 to 12-pound test. That's a wider range than I usually go with. Usually I stay in the 8 to 10-pound lane. That covers topwater, like walking baits, flukes, even a whopper plopper if I really wanted to do that. And it also covers light things, like if I wanted to fish a drop shot during a tough day, or just wanted to switch the bluegill for the rest of the day. With these 2 setups, a bait caster setup and a spinning rod setup, you will be able to accomplish most of what you need to do in a single day of fishing. That said, if you're going out into a tournament, don't just bring 2 rods because something bad is going to happen to one of them. Trust me, I know. But as far as a regular day out fishing, there's no point in bringing more than 2. Of course, that's all opinion. If you wanted to bring 16 rods and you think that's the best thing, go right ahead, man. I'm going to be cheering for you from the sidelines. There's also an argument to be made that bringing a shorter rod, something like 6 foot, 6'6", fishing from the bank is a better way as well. I have to agree. I don't think that's wrong either. You see, when you're fishing from the bank, a lot of the time you are dealing with trees. And let me tell you, I've had my fair share of run-ins with trees. A shorter rod is going to help you maneuver just a little better if you're around cover. What am I doing here? But a longer rod is going to allow you to cast just a little bit farther. And I know I'm saying these things as if you guys know what I'm talking about, but when I say medium heavy, I'm talking about the power of the rod. Medium heavy is going to affect how much punishment that rod can take, basically. So when I say medium heavy, let me back up a little bit. When someone says a rod has a lot of backbone, or it's a very flimsy, light rod, they're usually talking about power. Power ratings are usually heavy, medium, medium light, light, ultra light, and there's a few in between somewhere. And really the type of waters you're fishing, the type of covers, all of these things should dictate the kind of rod that you're using, whether a heavy rod for a lot of mats, or a medium heavy for more general purpose, or a medium if you're fishing something that has treble hooks, like a crankbait. And then you can get even more technical with the rod sensitivity and all that good stuff. Just keep it simple. Medium heavy is going to do you just fine. And on the spinning side, medium light, or even a medium heavy will do you just fine as well. Don't go too overboard, because then you'll end up spending hundreds of dollars on fishing equipment just like me. Now let's talk about reels. I know that's something that I am super excited about because I love fishing reels. I have way too many. It's just how it is. Recognize this thing? It's that bait caster I painted in the how to paint a bait caster video. I actually use it quite a bit. As you can see, this is a cheap bait caster I got for $10 from Amazon. Is it the best thing ever? No. In fact, I feel very frustrated when I fish with this thing. But it's okay. You don't need the most expensive bait caster out there. Some bait casters are quite expensive for a reason. Sometimes they have better cast control, so you have to use less thumb when you're casting it. The bait caster is not really recommended for beginners as they are kind of hard to get into. That's not saying that you can't do it. There are plenty of videos out there on how to cast bait casters, how to adjust them, and how to maintain them. But the primary thing that most people worry about with a bait caster is the gear ratio. You've got several common ones like 6:3 to 1 ratio, or 6:5 to 1, or going up to 8 to 1, to 9:3. And I think there's a 10 out right now. What that means is for every rotation of the handle, the spool inside turns 6.1 times, 7.1 times, so on, so forth from there. From the bank, you're really going to be working with personal preference. I prefer 7:3 to 1 ratios. Will I cry if I have a 6:3 to 1 ratio? No. It is noticeably slower, however. You'll find yourself reeling in a lot faster. So for a loose recommendation, I'm going to recommend a 7:3 to 1 ratio so you can cast out, you can reel in a little bit less and get that bait back to you just a little bit faster. Or if you want a pencil sharpener or fish in, you can. With so many bait casting reels out there, it's so hard to recommend any single one that's going to work for everybody. However, one that's really popular in the market for people who are just starting bait casting is an Abu Garcia Black Mac. I know a lot of guys that when they started using a bait caster, they started with that one. It's a reliable workhorse, and a lot of the time they still keep it to this day. For a more intermediate bait caster, I'm going to recommend the Daiwa Tatula series, especially the Type R. But of course, that's all personal opinion. Leave a comment below if you have a better idea for a beginning bait caster, or an intermediate one. Well, that's it for this week, and hey, the advice is just advice. Fishing is about experimenting, finding new things that work for you. It's up to you to find out what kind of fisherman you are, and only time will tell something like that. Who knows, you may become the greatest swim bait fisherman in the world. It just takes fishing a swim bait to do it. I only want to try and guide you there, and as soon as you get there, send me a check. I'm kidding, don't do that. But do. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I'll see you next time for part 3 of tips for the bank angler. And if there's something I've missed, something that you may have a better idea on, please leave a comment below. A lot of people browse those comments, and maybe you can help them out. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more tips for the bank angler, and other awesome fishing content that I post here. And as always, a bad day of fishing is so much better than a good day of work. Stay weird, fellas and fivers, and I'll see you all next time after 5. Bye-bye.